Hey guys, it's Megan at Metropolis Real Estate Solutions, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about market conditions. We talk about this all the time. Market conditions are something that over here at Metropolis Real Estate Solutions, we're having to look at on a daily basis, not just in a crisis. Things don't tend to change, or the changes don't tend to be reflected immediately, but we certainly can already feel the squeeze and the changes that are happening. I talked about this a couple days ago, I had begun noticing some changes in the market back in September, October, and I was largely attributing those to um, seasonal shifts and changes. But just like when the real estate market crashed back in 06, 07, that looked at first like it was going to be a seasonal shift, and then we never came out of it. And so I'm kind of anticipating a little bit of that to a little bit of that degree. What I'm anticipating is that we're just not going to have the same springtime launch that we expected we could have had if things had kept going the way they were. We already knew that there was a recession coming. We knew that it was going to be within the next year or so. I have been anticipating and proselytizing this whole time that it would be this year, that it would be this spring, because we are in an election year and people tend to get a little bit conservative when things feel unsure. Now, certainly because of what all has happened, we've been launched right into what is likely going to be a really volatile situation for a little bit of time. So I wanted to share with you some of the market conditions that I've gathered over the last couple of days in doing appraisal reports. I actually did an appraisal yesterday in one of our very favorite neighborhoods in Audubon Park. And so I'm going to share with you those market conditions right here. I'm going to show you what I came up with. This was essentially for, I'm going to share my screen. This was essentially for, let's see here. This was essentially for what I would consider to be a very typical house within the neighborhood. This house was about 1,650 square feet. It was a 3-2. And so the data that I pulled is relative to a home like that. And so what we find here, if we look at this, I even blew up my cursor great big for you guys. If we look here, we can see the total number of sales in the prior 7 to 12 months. Now keep in mind that's a 6-month period, was 37. So we could say that there were, 18 and a half sales per quarter over a year ago. And that stayed consistent over what would be the summer, basically, to 17 sales over the summer. And then in the last 90 days, there were about 9 sales within a 1-mile radius of my subject property. So that's going to incorporate all of Audubon Park and a little bit of Southern Winter Park, maybe even stretching a little bit over into Baldwin Park. But again, this is based on homes that range probably within between 1,300 and 2,000 square feet in that market. One of the things we can notice here, if we look here, total number of comparable active listings. So for having 9 sales over the last 90 days, there's only 8 competing listings. That's not even enough for 1 per person, assuming that each person selects a different house that they want to purchase. So this is considered an undersupply. And then you can see here we have only a 2.7 month housing supply, which is really, it's still fair. It's still low. Typically we see, houses, housing supply in Central Florida of anywhere under 3 months, and we're still in that range. So that's fantastic. And here's one of the things that we can look at. The median comparable sales price over the course of the past year. So 6 months ago, for the first 6 months of the prior 12, the median sales price was $375. Over the summertime, early fall, it actually, I guess this would probably be 4 to 6 months ago. This would actually probably be in the fall. We saw a real dip, and that is something that we tend to expect. That's not unusual, but that is a pretty big drop. So we dropped from a median of $375 out of 37 sales to a median sales price of $335 out of 17 sales. And as the new year has begun and as spring has started heating back up again, what we see is it's going back up again. We're up to 345. Now that number is still lower than what we were seeing at the height of the market back last year. But again, that's kind of to be expected. None of this is alarming at this juncture. So I just want to share that with you guys at this point as of today. I do expect that to be leveling off. I don't expect it to rise in the same way that we would have expected it to had we not been presented with the current events. But I think that it's a good sign that up until yesterday, things are taking a pretty normal track. So maybe a couple of the other things to look at are here. We've got median list prices are increasing consistently over the year. That's also really typical. Most real estate agents don't process this data. They're not looking at these trends. They don't have the software or the training or the utilities to look at these figures. We're really lucky here that we're able to do that all of the time. And so this consistent increase basically is just kind of a highlight to the issue that real estate agents aren't always getting the message in a timely manner. So where we see this big drop between 375 median sales price down to 335, agents were still pricing things as though they were increasing. And then that even continued into the most recent 90 days. And I'm going to look really quickly and you'll see what happens as a result of that. If you look at the very next line down at the days on market, you can see that what happens is at the 356, 450, we had an average days, median listing days on market of 23.86 days. Then the asking prices aren't coming down to meet the demand. Here we've got them at 335,000 is the median, and yet we're still asking 380. So what happens? We're seeing almost twice the length of time of marketing. And so our 23-day market exposure now has gone up to 40 days. And then what happens? Yet again, we double that figure, even more than double that figure, when we see that real estate agents really aren't getting a clue. They haven't realized that the median sales price has dipped yet, and they're still over asking for all of these properties. And the median days, comparable listing days on market is all the way up to almost 97 days now. So we've gone from having a 24-day marketing time to a 97-day marketing time. So these are the things at Metropolis that we're always looking at. So if you come to us and tell us, hey, I don't have 97 days, then I know that we need to do something about this right here, this inconsistency and incongruous relationship between the median sales price trends and the asking price trends, the listing price trends. So that is a summary of what's happening for what I would consider the typical property in Audubon Park. Nothing too alarming as of yet. I'm going to move on now and show you a property that I did in Winter Park yesterday. I also pulled this data. This is on the Seminole County side in Winter Park. It is for a smaller home, only about 1,250 square feet. So the homes in this category are ranging between about 1,000 square feet and 1,500 square feet. And what we can see here is a little bit different than what we were seeing in Audubon Park. And that's likely largely attributed to the fact that this is a more affordable price range, which means there are more market participants in this price range. So we get just more activity and a bigger funnel to put everybody through. So same deal, we see that there's 49 sales in the prior 7 to 12 months. That's about 25 per quarter. Then over the fall, that dropped down to about 16. And remember, I said that things do tend to slow down in the fall months. And then we're right on track right now for early, new year, winter, early spring. We look at median sales prices. They have consistently increased. And again, that is likely due to the fact that this price range casts a much broader net. These houses tend to appeal to the largest portion of our buying population. So we've got near constant activity in that market, and there's competition. So our sales price or our listing prices, now this gets really weird. If you look, we've had a drastic undersupply. For 49 sales, there were 3 listings. For 16 sales, there were 5. And now for 17 sales, we only have 1 competing listing if you want to buy in that market. And then that seemed to be consistent all the way throughout. And you can see how that has a result or a direct relationship with how many days on the market these houses are sitting. So basically, as soon as something comes available in this market, it goes. So we've got 10 days, 6.5 days, 21.5 days. So again, when you're working with us on maybe listing a home, or even on the buyer side, we can look at this data for each particular house and each market and help you either develop a pricing strategy if you're listing your house, or a pricing strategy if you're placing an offer on a house. Typically, if homes are going under contract in 6.5 days, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in trying to make an offer. You need to be competitive because you've got a lot of people chomping at the bit to buy that house. And then our median sales prices were super stable until just recently, and they declined. But it's important to know that that's based on only 1 listing. So basically that market has gone a little bit quiet. We would have expected it to have more activity as of now. I think that it's just might be an indicator. It might be a sign that things are going to start slowing up. And I think we're all pretty prepared for that. So this again is, I wanted to look at the days on market. It's kind of the same. As prices go up, the days on the market lengthen. And then, so we have 279, 279, and then we drop down to 210, and now we're at, 7 days on the market at 210, and that makes sense. So that is a portion of Winter Park that is in Seminole County. I wanted to share that with you. That was my dog barking, and I'm sure you can hear my bird and my children in the background because I am working from home today, as I'm hoping as many of you are. If not, thank you for continuing to keep things moving out in the world. So here is one other one I want to share with you. This one is actually prepared as of the very end of the year last year. It was prepared as of December 31st of 2019. This is in the jumbo top 1% of the market. And what we can see here is a really clear warning. If you believe in trickle-down economics, this might be something that you would consider giving some attention to. So here in this mega estate market, my subject property was 10,000 square feet. So these are homes that are between probably 8,000 and 12,000 square feet. We can see that in the first 12 months of the first 6 months of the prior 12 months, there were 8 sales in this range. And then it very quickly over the fall dropped down to 2, and it's been consistent at 2. That's the number of sales. And then look at what happens to the number of competing listings. So for the 8 sales, we had pretty much what's considered a balance at 15 listings to choose from. We can't assume that each listing will go to a person. People need choice and selection. So having 2 homes per person to look at is getting a little more balanced than what we've been seeing in the other markets. That number jumps to 17. And in the most recent 90 days, you can see that number jumps to 20 as our number of sales drops to 2. So we now have a huge difference between supply and demand here, and it is becoming very quickly a buyer's market in this market. So one of the other key factors to look at is the median sales price. It certainly is reflecting what it appears these other trends are reflecting. So we had a median sales price of a little over $3 million over the most distant 6 months. That drops down to 2.85 and now down to 2.62 in the most recent 90 days. Listing days on market has exponentially increased. We've got 135, 222. We're staying at 222.5. And basically, we went from having under a year of housing supply, which is very typical for this level of estate market to have, for it to take a year. We're all the way up to 30 months now. So you know, if we're going to take any notes from the people who have the money, they are sitting on their wallets and they're withholding on some of their spending. And I think that that's something that we need to kind of pay attention to. But at this point, over here at Metropolis, we are still working. We've got some new listings coming on in the next couple of weeks. We've been working diligently on getting those emptied out, cleaned. We want to make showings as easy as possible. We are trying to help out in our community in any way we can, but to still keep everybody safe. If you need anything at all, whether you're one of our existing clients or not, please reach out to us. Please let us know how we can help. We're kind of struggling right now with trying to figure out what to do with ourselves and our days. And, we've got a lot of work to do, but at the end of the day, we all as a family kind of sit down together and just kind of look at each other like, what can we do differently? How do we keep this machine moving forward? So please reach out if you have any questions. I'm here all the time. Adam is always available. I'll know after watching this video and playback how many times I've touched my face, which is why we're sticking as close to home as we possibly can. So please have a great rest of the week. Stay safe. Let us know if you need anything at all. And I'm going to continue to look at these numbers and report back to you. So thanks so much. We'll talk to you really soon. Bye.